It is kind of hard to believe. It seems like it's been forever ago, and yet at the same time it seems like it was just yesterday. It's been 2 years since the worst oil spill in U.S. history. 4.9 million barrels of crude spilled into the Gulf Coast.
And there are new studies that are revealing the long-term impact. Studies show the Gulf of Mexico's ecosystem absorbed the insult of the crude oil, and it's estimated that 102 species of birds have been harmed.
Well, now there is one young girl who is using her passion to paint a different picture of what happened and to help save some of those hardest hit.
From the outside to the inside of Olivia Bowler's life, she's gone to the birds. This 13-year-old started drawing them when she was just 4 years old.
I don't have a favorite because it's not fair for the rest of them.
Her two passions collided when the oil spill hit the Gulf Coast.
More than 200 million gallons of oil leaked from BP's undersea well.
It looked like a wasteland.
Olivia put a plan together.
I tried to list my talents in my head. You know, what would be the greatest thing to raise money? I thought art.
She wrote the Audubon Society a simple letter that reads, "I'm a decent drawer, and I wish I could sell some bird paintings."
I didn't obviously expect it to take this huge, wild, crazy turn that it has.
For each donation to save the birds, they in return got an original Olivia painting. In all, 500 paintings were purchased. AOL stepped in and donated $25,000. They too got a painting in return, and then a surprise call.
Yeah, just a random call like, hey, so, yeah, we want to do a book. I'm like, a book?
And with that, Olivia became an author and is on tour with a workshop to help others draw birds. She wants to be a role model for kids to step up and do something, anything they believe in.
Kids, they believe in the crazy things happening. Reality has not been set on their shoulders, so they can really get involved at a young age and feel like they made a difference. And they could see a future that, you know, sometimes adults can't because reality is kind of like a fog and it's blocking their view.
Olivia says without her parents' support, her efforts would have gone nowhere.
What do you do when you're upset about something? You can complain about it or you can do something about it.
I wanted to help her realize her potential and dreams.
And what a dream it is. In all, this 13-year-old has raised more than $250,000 for Gulf recovery efforts.
I know it just looks like we're kids, but stepping up and taking action, it's really a huge deal.
And Olivia has since been awarded the ASPCA Kid of the Year award and was named a champion of change by the White House.
But it's not just the birds that took a hit from the oil spill. Much of the marine life that also lives in the Gulf was impacted by that spill. So what are the long-term effects and what does it mean for the seafood we eat? Many scientists at Horn Point in Cambridge visited the Gulf to find out, and one of them is Dr. Michael Rowan, the director of Horn Point Lab, who joins us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Rowan, for joining us today. Now, first of all, I want to ask you, when you and your team went down there, what did you discover?
Hi, Lisa. Well, we discovered two things. We had been studying the food chain of the Gulf since 2003, and so after the oil spill occurred, we received funds to go down and survey the same area that we had sampled 6 years previously along the Louisiana-Texas coast. And the good news is that the plankton, the small things that the fish eat, and the fish were the same numbers, the same species. We didn't really find that that had adversely affected those critters in September after the cruise. The second aspect was a little more disturbing, but really not unpredictable, is that we took samples of the plankton near the Macondo well. And down deep, the small plankton had an oil signature that was reflective of the oil that was fresh, that was coming out of the wellhead, and whereas the plankton at the surface had a more degraded oil spill, and so spill signature. So I guess the bottom line is that the oil was finding its way into the marine food web.
So you have a little bit of good news, a little bit of bad news. What does that mean for the food chain, the impact on the food chain?
Well, of course, oil seeps naturally in the Gulf of Mexico, so it's unlike the Valdez spill in Alaska, where the oil was brought up there. So these animals are used to essentially assimilating the oil and breaking it down. The USDA has been sampling the seafood in the Gulf monthly since the oil spill and looking for residues and things that we eat like shrimp and redfish, and they haven't found any residues that would be harmful to people. So that's the good news.
So the seafood that comes from the Gulf, then you would say is safe?
Yes, it is. You know, as I say, there's a little bit of oil residue that it's broken down into maybe compounds that aren't harmful. I mean, even in our local Chesapeake Bay here, you know, the fish and crabs we eat have low levels of things like mercury and arsenic that the states of Maryland and Virginia samples that seafood, so that some of these low levels, just like perhaps pesticides in food, are determined to be at a level that doesn't harm humans.
All right, well, now the Gulf is kind of bracing for Isaac. Should we be concerned about that? Could that affect, you know, the food down there, the seafood?
Well, I'm not so sure it would affect the seafood. Of course, they get tropical storms and hurricanes all the year, every summer. You know, there are about 3,800 oil wells in the Gulf. They've been evacuated. Some 5,000 people work on these rigs, and what they do is they shut those wells down so that if there is high winds and the oil rigs topple, it won't be oil spilling into the sea. So that, you know, those rigs are being shut down as we speak in anticipation of Isaac upgrading to a full-fledged hurricane.
Okay, so they're prepared down there. All right, Dr. Roman, thank you so much for joining us from Horn Point Lab in Cambridge. And if you would like some more information on Horn Point, go to delmarvalife.com, click on the show tab. Well, still to come on Delmarva Life this time of year, monarch butterflies are getting ready to head south ahead of the colder weather. Gardening expert Jenny Rosenkrantz is here to show us how we can attract some of them in our own yard ahead of their migration. Plus, taking advantage of grant money, how Delaware Electric Cooperative can help you install an irrigation system. Life at its best here on Delmarva.